Welcome to a Celtic State of Mind. I'm John Dykes, and like episode 1 4.5 years ago, I am joined by Kevin Graham. Kevin, welcome to the show.
Evening.
You're going to freak folk out with that mask on, mate. Listen, Kevin set up the Weekender with me this morning, the 9 o'clock, the 9 a.m. show, and you're returning, Kev, for the 9 p.m. show. Yeah. This is the 24th hour that we have streamed and created content over the Charity Weekender. This is an annual occurrence. Scott, what's this? Well, you'll be asking yourself, what is this? There is a relevance to this, so before further ado, we will explain why Kevin is sitting there wearing a Zico mask.
Basically, the first episode of Screamer Celica that we done, Johnny Proctor came in, and the character from Johnny Proctor's books is Zico. And since we played Dundee United today and gave them a bit of a going over, I thought I would wear the mask. So just a wee thank you to Johnny for coming in, and just to say we're thinking of him this evening.
We're thinking of all our Dundee United friends. Yes. Who do we know that supports Dundee United? All right, so we know Nick Mercer, who was the front man of Sargent. Okay. He's a Dundee United fan.
I didn't know that.
He was in the studio last year. And hopefully we'll get him back in for an unplugged session. This is a very relaxed hour between Kevin and I. We are going to speak about a number of subjects in relation to Celtic. This is closing the charity weekend element of our fundraising appeal. We are almost at 20 grand raised, and you know what? It would be tremendous if we could push it up to the 20 grand before we close the door tonight. There will be further opportunities to raise a wee bit more money with our auction. We've got about 30 items that are going to be auctioned off over the next week. And at this moment in time, we have £19,638, which means that we need to raise less than £400 to get us up to double the target, because the target was 10 grand. Now, why was the target £10,000? Kevin Graham, we are raising funds for St Mary's in the Carlton, which is the birthplace of Celtic Football Club. We can't forget that. We talk about knowing our history. We know our history. I think that I've said this a few times over the weekend when I started doing my research for my first ever item of content, which just so happened to be a Celtic book. I quickly realised that there were people out there with a vastly superior knowledge of Celtic Football Club and its history than myself. I always prided myself on reading the history books, on getting involved as much as I possibly could, and trying to learn more and more about our club. And here we are now raising cash for the birthplace of our club, Celtic Football Club. And St Mary's need our cash. We had a figure of 10 grand, which was our target. We have now raised just about double that. By the end of this show, it would be phenomenal if we could get up to 20k. That would be absolutely tremendous. Please get involved in the comments section. We are streaming live on Facebook and on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And get involved, because we'll be happy to discuss any matters whatsoever. Jamie Young, yes, it is Kevin. That was his big reveal. Kevin, shows that natty wee tracksuit that you're wearing.
I need to sit up.
Aye, shows that. Aye, shows the shamrock.
There's the shamrock.
There it is, right. Okay. It's a belter. We had that shamrock designed, so it is ours. It's not a total rip-off of the likes of Panathinaikos or the 1950s and 60s Celtic away jersey, which at the time was called the political shirt. That's our shamrock, which is now adorning these two tracksuit tops, one white, one green, and also the replica that we've created. And this is all about creating a wee line of merchandise to keep the content free, to keep ACSOM producing daily content. Kevin, that's exactly what we're doing. This is the last stream, so let's have a wee look at some of your highlights then, Kev. What have you enjoyed over the last couple of days? I
kind of had a wee laugh today at Tommy and Frank.
I love Tommy and Frank.
I know. I've got a message from my dad. After the game and that, I was plotting about doing stuff, getting prepared to come down here. So I didn't watch it all. And my dad texted me and he went like that. He says, they two are hilarious. And I knew right away what he was on about. And so I switched it on. And when you're pointing to the merch behind, so obviously Tommy's sitting there and the ACSOM, oops. And Frank's sitting where I'm sitting at this precise moment in time. And Tommy goes, what bit of merch do you like, Frank? And they went, I like the one with the shamrock. And Tommy went like that as quick as a flash. There's 3 of them with a shamrock, Frank. You need to choose one, eh? I love that. They guys didn't take themselves too seriously.
No, they don't, which is bizarre when you consider what Frank achieved in football as a Celtic player, with Liverpool, with St Mirren, and of course Scotland. I mean, there's a fantastic image of Frank McGarvey at Hampden, and Diego Maradona, a young Maradona, is in front of him. It's a fantastic image. Correct me in the comment section if Tony Haggerty was here, he'd tell me the year. Was it 78?
Is it no 8?
No, it was later than that.
80?
It was later than 78.
I'm saying 1980.
Right. Somebody in the comments will be able to tell us, right? I try my best to run these podcasts on memory alone without Googling everything and checking Wikipedia. But yeah, there's a brilliant image of McGarvey with Diego, and I'm not sure who had the best perm. But McGarvey, for me, is someone who downplays his achievements in many ways with Celtic and in football in general. But what happened today was Tommy Sheridan has been a pal of mine for a while. And I really do like his politics. I love his passion for Celtic. And we obviously play in the old Crocs games. Kev, you've been at a few of them. I was asking him today if he was going to still be playing in 2022. And he embarrassed me because he just looked at me and said, of course I am. And he is, let me just get this right, he's 14 years older than me. And I was thinking about retiring, but I'm thinking, how can I retire if Tommy's still playing? And I do remember in the first game that I played, he scored a 20-yard cracker of a goal. But of course, Tommy played with Dukla Pumferson, didn't he?
He did, yes.
And he was here today. And what happened was the shows were going on, and this wee bit that we're in at the moment, this grey studio, is the live streaming studio. Out the front there, we've got like a kind of series of sets that we can utilise for fully produced content, Kev, and we are working on expanding on that as well. So when the guests were in here, Tommy and Frank were out there watching the game. So we had Laura and Tony and Brian doing the watch along for the Dundee United game. Tommy was out there watching the game with Frank. And I remember just that there's been a few moments, and I know you've had a few moments like this where you're thinking, this is actually surreal, but it seems normal because it's happened gradually. So 5 years ago, if somebody had said to me that Frank McGarvey and Tommy Sheridan would have visited me in my studio to watch a game of football and then jumped on a show, I would never have believed it or thought it possible. But here we are, 4.5 years after we set up the podcast, and it seems very normal. And it was brilliant for the pair of them to give us their time. But I wish we had filmed the chat out there. It definitely was ACSOM's version of Gogglebox. You missed it. It was priceless. And my missus popped in and she said to me, "Who's that guy there?" And I was like, that's Frank. He played with Liverpool and Celtic. And she couldn't believe that someone who had played with two of the biggest clubs in Britain was so down to earth, having a wee bit of crack with my wee boy and all this kind of stuff. So a pair of gentlemen. I love the pair of them to bits. And the show was fantastic. So if you haven't already checked out their YouTube channel, go and have a look at it and catch up. I'm going to play a couple of more of the videos that I started playing this morning as well, because we didn't really get an opportunity to go through them all. So we will play a few more of those. What did we get up to? Was it Wyn Evans, the Goal Compare guy? Goal Compare. Right, okay. So we'll play a few more as we go through this final hour. And as I say, every single penny that's been raised is appreciated. And no matter how large or small, we've just had another wee donation coming in. Thank you so much for that. £5, taking us up to a total at the moment of 19,648. So we really are moving towards 352, is that right? It's been a long 24 hours. £352 to go to get it up to 20k. And then what we're doing during the week, Kev, is we are going to be auctioning off some fantastic Celtic-related items, loads of signed goods, framed goods as well. And I didn't cover the game today, so I had the opportunity to enjoy it, as I was saying before. Kev, let's start off by having a wee chat about the game for 10 minutes or so. Everybody's digested it. Best performance of the season?
It's up there with the Hibs performance. I thought I really did think that we played well against Betis away. I really did. But domestically, it was controlling again. Really, we're actually beginning to throttle teams at times now, especially in the first half. We really just do not let teams come out. We suffocate teams. It's almost as if we put a blanket over them. I mean, a lot of people were suggesting that today was going to be a tough game just with injuries. And it didn't turn out that way. And I'm not being disrespectful to Dundee United, but 3-0 utterly flattered them. And once we start clicking, because I don't think we've clicked yet. I don't think there's still a lot of nearly stuff that we do, that if that starts coming off, somebody's going to get a right hiding for us.
So a couple of teams have been on the end of 6-0.
See, the 6-0s, Paul. I think they were a false impression of how Ange wanted us to play.
Right.
I think what we're seeing now is more how Ange wants us to play.
Mm-hmm.
I think the team have got more used to his philosophy, his style, and it's utterly great to watch. You know, look at Tom Rogic today. That is one of the best performances I've seen from that fella in his whole Celtic career. His first goal of the day, that was Paddy McCourt-esque.
It was.
It was. When he got past the first man and he's getting to the edge of the box and he does that little jink, you knew he's scoring. He knows he's scoring.
Slaloming through, meandering through. He's got that magnetic toe. Is that his best goal in a Celtic jersey?
Oh, no, you've got to say 2016 Scottish Cup final as his best goal in a Celtic jersey.
I think so.
That's in the top two.
It's like Brian Clough. I wasn't the best manager, but I was in the top one.
That's definitely in the top two. It just sort of settled the nerves, even though we had missed a couple of chances up until then. He produces that moment's a genius, but the boy in the middle of the park for Dundee United is at Fuchs. He'll be having nightmares about Tom Rogic tonight.
Yeah.
And he's 6'1".
Yep.
And they couldn't get round him.
He's never been in better shape though, Kev.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. And he's a guy that gets you off your seat. And today, I noticed there were some people actually saying today that the fullbacks weren't really involved today, but I think that's because Big Tam was utterly unplayable.
Big sexy Tam.
Everything he done was utterly brilliant today. The goal, David Turnbull's goal as well, that was his hardest chance in the first half. But the flick across the head, then to have the presence of mind to burrow round and put the ball into the back of the net was great. And you're looking at Liam Scales coming on, a wee cameo.
So for him. Yeah.
A wee cameo role, playing the inverted fullback role, because your fullback shouldn't be, you're 2-0 up with 9 minutes to go. What's your fullback doing in the centre of midfield?
He had a left back that scored in 2 European Cup finals. This is Celtic we're talking.
I'm maybe just having a wee fishing expedition there with people who are not for the inverted fullbacks. But it was a good finish by the big fella, even though Andy Walker was absolutely screaming it was an OG because it came off Ryan Edwards as well. But
never an OG.
But
by the way, right, I'm going to hold my hands up here before somebody already brings it up in the comments section. Did I write off Liam Scales? I don't think I wrote him off. I think what I said was he was a project. He wasn't Celtic ready. He wasn't first team ready. That's what I said.
Paul, we've got a lot of guys in the comments who come from Republic of Ireland.
They know a lot more about Irish
They know
football
a lot more about Liam Scales than me. And I'll maybe get shot down for this, but I've watched quite a bit of Bohemians this season. And I could see it was going to take...
Who's their sponsor? Who's their shirt sponsor?
Well, they did have Refugees Welcome the last time.
Is that no DC Fontaines?
It used to... They done a one-off jersey.
Right.
They done a one-off jersey. Mm-hmm. And then I kind of expected there would be a wee bit of climatisation for Liam Scales to actually get up to the speed of Scottish football, because it is a step up. And he's coming to the biggest, a far bigger club than Shamrock Rovers. There is competition there. Mm-hmm. He's got to get used to the speed of training, the difference training with better players. So and I think the staff are maybe dropping him in at the right time. He's going to play against Betis.
Yeah.
For me, he has to get 90 minutes against Betis. But I'm pleased for him today. He's a young lad. He's made a dream move. He scored a good goal today. I was also pleased that Greg Taylor got how many minutes that he actually got. He was solid. He was solid enough as well. Callum McGregor once again utterly fantastic.
Oh, untouchable.
Utterly brilliant. I thought Kyogo. The team's trying to find Kyogo more quicker than the last two. And last week against Aberdeen, they couldn't find Kyogo at all. Against Hearts and Dundee United, he's been really, really good. We still miss a few chances. We still really miss a few chances. You can't complain going to a tough away game, winning 3-0. A lot of guys done their shift. I see still people questioning the long-term future of Mikey Johnson, Abada, and stuff like that. Look, let's just enjoy winning 3-0. They contributed to that 3-0 today. Let's just enjoy that.
You very rarely, Kev, have... I was raving about the front three earlier on in the season of Jota, Kyogo and Abada, but you very rarely are going to be in a scenario where all three are firing on all cylinders. So Jota's had a rich vein of form, Kyogo's had that, Abada's had it earlier on, but he's obviously fallen away a wee bit. I'm not going to write him off. And I've heard a lot said about Mikey Johnson all week, and again, I have said this is make or break. I don't think that's being cruel on him. I don't think that's being overcritical. I think this season for Mikey Johnson is make or break. He really needs to step up. He needs to contribute. On Thursday, when Starfelt comes back into the team, and I'm talking to Laura Bradburn before the game, and there was this whole discussion around Starfelt, and I basically just said, it's just time for him to play. It's time for him to prove that he's worth £4.5 million. He's a Swedish internationalist. Yeah, he had to acclimatise. And I spoke about that, the fact that he's come in, he never really had the pre-season, he never even had a training session thrown into the team. It is going to take time for him to adapt. So when we're talking about skills, players from a far higher level have failed to adapt to Scottish football or playing for a club like Celtic. And you just got to look at last season with players like Diego Laxalt coming in from AC Milan, Shane Duffy coming in from Brighton, and Albion Ajeti coming in, John Joe Kenny. These players didn't adapt to playing for Celtic and or playing within Scottish football. So for Liam Scales to come in, I don't think it's doing him a disservice to say that he's probably a project, he's probably a fringe player. But at this moment in time, a few months down the line, he's given his chance, he scores a memorable goal, and he was absolutely delighted about it. Something just came to my mind when we were watching the game there with Frank McGarvey earlier on, and Tom Rogic scores that goal, and Frank said, that's a world-class goal. Doesn't matter if it's scored at Tannadice, that's a world-class goal. And it's true, though. I mean, we thought, who was the English club that was in for Tom Rogic? Was it Fulham?
Was it Fulham or Hull?
There was talk of a couple of teams coming in for him. And this is where he was on his way, and we'd kind of like checked out on Tom Rogic. If he was to be shown that kind of form on a platform like English football, it would be shown all over the world. I mean, that goal today was astonishing, but loads of his other play was as well. Kevin, that's a person and a player for me that hadn't contributed for a good 18 months prior to Postecoglou coming in.
It seemed that you're talking about we had maybe checked out on Tom Rogic. He had seemed to have checked out on us as well at times. During especially over the last 18 months, and Postecoglou's revived him. He must have been known the man. His phone must have been red hot when Postecoglou got the job with his teammates, going, what's this guy like? And the big man seems to be, you look at Callum McGregor, but Rogic seems to be the big man's leader on the park as well. He leads by example. He does what Postecoglou wants him to do. And today he was unplayable. The Dundee United players were bouncing off him. He's 28, and I think we seem to actually forget he's been here 8 years.
8 years.
8 years he's been here. He basically played five-a-side football up until he was 20, and he won that night competition to get a professional contract. So he's still like a baby in his football career, because he hasn't played really 11-a-side football since in Scotland you play 11-a-side football for 8-year-old. So he hasn't got 20 years experience playing 11-a-side football, but you can actually see he's a futsal player because of his close control. You can actually see that he's played the majority of his development years with a smaller ball and smaller sided games. Somebody at 6'1" shouldn't be able to move like that. So somebody at 6'1" shouldn't be able to be as graceful as what Tom Rogic was today, and he has been 2016 Scottish Cup final in that as well. And I loved that goal today. I loved his performance today. I loved when he actually scored. He didn't really celebrate. He just sort of went, well, that's what I do. That's like, there wasn't any, Paddy McCourt had that as well. He didn't really celebrate when he scored it, when he had worldies as well. It was just have to go, this is what I do.
See, I think, Kev, a couple of questions. Firstly, is this the best of Tom Rogic? Is this the best we've seen? Is he hitting a peak here?
I think there was a period under Rodgers in the Invincible season when he was fantastic as well. Mm-hmm. What I'm going to say is this time he's got more responsibility.
Yeah.
Because he's more of a senior player. He's more of a senior player. So there's a wee bit added pressure on him than maybe what was under Rodgers. So I think he's excelling because of that added pressure at this precise moment in time. Is it the best? Debatable.
But possibly.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking about his journey with Celtic.
It's unexpected. It's really unexpected.
But probably not to Ange.
No.
Probably
Again,
not to him.
This goes back to the start of the season, Paul, where we were all going, Tom Rogic will not fit Ange Postecoglou's style of football. Well, he bloody does.
We did say that, didn't we?
Aye, we did.
It's out there. So we're now £242 short of 20,000 quid.
Wow.
£242 is a lot of money, right? I'm not taking that for granted. But I've always said that when we started realising, Kev, that we had a platform that a lot of people were enjoying, we thought we need to use it for the betterment. We need to use it for a wider good. So it was always a case of big amount of people watching it, giving a small amount equals a hefty amount for charity. And that's what we done last year, 27k. Wouldn't it be incredible, Kev, if we were to raise over and above the Charity Weekender, including the auction that we're going to run for a week after today, if we were to raise something like 23k, that would take us up to 50,000 over the two events.
That would be phenomenal, eh? That's beyond our wildest imagination.
That'd buy you a Diddy or a Gat.
It would. Yes, it's beyond our wildest imagination. You have to thank everybody, all the contributors, everybody who's gave up their time.
Jumped in their motors, came through the studio.
It's an expensive time of year as well, and everybody has donated. It's been utterly fantastic. The guys, I know some guys that have been on the stream for 24 hours.
That's amazing.
That have been commenting all the time, and it's just humbling. It's really, I know Tony Haggerty says he's humbled all the time as well, but it's really humbling. There isn't really any other word. That this is the best of the Celtic support. This is really the best of the Celtic support.
Oh, yeah.
And if we go back to the game today, Postecoglou after the game actually says, you talk to people round about this club, and he says this club was nothing last season without the support. Mm-hmm. And days like this, the Celtic support will always be the heart and soul of and we will always promote why we were founded and the reason that we were founded, and that's always going to be in the forefront of our minds when we're doing anything whatsoever.
Now, before I go on, I'm going to make a wee point of mentioning the e-Tims who were on today, because I thought a fantastic point was raised where they were giving kudos out to everybody who had donated cash to the fundraiser, Kev, everybody who had given their time and collaborated. And by the way, within the studio, loads of people behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. I mean, yesterday, Lawrence and Kevin Tate from the penalty spot were in the studio helping out, but they weren't on screen. Kelvin, who is our videographer and resident genius, was in today helping out behind the scenes, not in front of the camera. So there's loads of people helping out. But what the e-Tim said, and I really enjoyed their input today actually, was why are the club not doing this? Why are the club not in a situation where they have a long time ago came to an arrangement on an agreement with St Mary's whereby we don't get into this situation? Now, I know the pandemic threw a low blower at everybody, Kev, right? So businesses, everybody's been affected by it. So when you are really relying on your parishioners in terms of the financial security of your church, and they don't leave the house for a year, it's obviously a completely different set of circumstances. So even if we just take it to the situation last year, Kev, should the club now then not be doing something about it?
You would like to think that the fact is it's now been highlighted how precarious their situation is, that the club would step in and maybe make a donation this year, or the foundation would, because the foundation is a charitable arm of the club. It's very difficult to comment on how the club view things, but as you say, St Mary's is the cornerstone of Celtic. Without having St Mary's, you're not going to have Celtic. And for them, and how many things have Celtic used St Mary's for over the last couple of years and for them not to even have asked the question at that point, are you okay? During the pandemic.
Yep.
And some people were very, very critical of the club during the pandemic for not reaching out to the most vulnerable within their support, and maybe not reaching out to the most vulnerable in their own community.
Go and do me a favour, Kev. Go and pull that one towards you, mate. Just visually, and push that one out the way. Just because it's hiding that gorgeous face of yours, mate. So we're going to just change. We can do that. We're a wee bit more relaxed today, so we can do that.
Anybody wants to see my face?
Your coupon, yes, they do. So pull that one a wee bit closer to you. There we go. Just pulling the cable out. That's fine. That's fine, mate. You're good. I think that, there was a discussion had on Friday about, the fact that Tommy Burns sent a message. He sent a message to the wider Celtic support, and we may not have picked up on it. And he was reminding everybody of the importance of St Mary's to the whole fabric of Celtic Football Club. Because, sometimes people are putting a message across, Kevin, we just don't pick it up. And, we weren't aware of the plight. We were aware of the significance of St Mary's. We didn't know that, obviously, it was in dire straits. Stevie Chalmers was also, that the Mass was also at St Mary's. When Stevie passed, it was a lot more low-key for Stevie, as was his wish, because that was the character that Stevie was. And as you quite rightly said, we had the 125th anniversary Mass there, and then every year since. But the Mass every year since, in fact, let's go back to the 125th anniversary Mass. That was not something that the club was pushing for. 100%. That was not. That would not have gone ahead had it not been for certain individuals who wouldn't thank me for naming them. But there's people within the Celtic support who do an incredible amount of work, Kev, but they would never sit in that seat that you're sitting in and talk about it. And there are certain individuals who are instrumental in ensuring that 125th anniversary Mass went ahead, who are not employed by Celtic Football Club. They're just lifelong Celtic fans. And at least one of them will be well known to a lot of Celtic fans. And he just goes about his business doing good things and good deeds, as does the other gentleman. And when they approached the club, it wasn't even in their eye line, Kev, to be doing anything for the 125th anniversary of the birth of this club. And then since then, the annual Mass has been something that's been more pushed by St Mary's than the club. Then we have Bertie Auld, again, like Tommy, reminding us of the importance of St Mary's to Celtic Football Club. And that's what brought it back to the forefront in my mind a few weeks ago. So these people are sending us messages. And I think it's important that we've now picked up on it, because we sing If You Know the History.
Aye, it's what you're saying there about the 125th anniversary. I didn't have a clue about that. But then again, that should be something that the club shouldn't need to be told about. Mm-hmm. That should have been, it's our 125th year. We need to go and have a celebration in the chapel that was in the parish, the priest where we were formed. And maybe that shows that the people in the club, there's some people in the club maybe making the wrong decisions. or don't grasp the history of the club, and they're maybe looking in the wrong places. I mean, the Celtic Foundation do absolutely fantastic work. They really do. But I don't know who makes the choices of who gets the money and what they actually donate to. And it's very, very difficult to actually criticise the Celtic Foundation. But I find it quite easy to criticise the Celtic Board. Mm-hmm. And I will criticise the Celtic Board for somebody in that boardroom not going, we've got a care and duty to our founding fathers. And we need to make sure that's always upheld, no matter what decision we actually are making within this football club.
Thing is, Kev, I know you're not just saying that for effect, because I was at that,
I know.
That fan forum where you told Brian Wilson to have a look out the window and say, have a look at Brother Wilfred, what would he do? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you did say it.
But that should be their consideration with every decision that they actually make.
Why not? That should be the standard.
I mean, we like to think that they say the tagline hashtag Celtic family and stuff like that on social media feeds and things like that. No, if you want to be a community, Celtic is a large diaspora, but Celtic's community is in that East End, and it always will be in that East End. And even guys like myself and you, Paul, who didn't come from that Celtic East End, who come from the East End of Glasgow, understand the importance of that area to our football club. Mm-hmm. And the board have to understand that as well. And that should always be at the forefront of their minds. And hopefully now they can maybe do something with St Mary's to make sure that they never get into this situation again.
Yeah, so big bugbear of mine now, and of ACSOM's, is St Mary's and the upkeep of St Mary's. And all season I've been talking about the Former Players Association and the fact that we need to look after our players as well. We need to look after the players once they stop playing. I'm going to bring this up just obviously because it's all about point of reference. The Hulk banger, Kev has never looked better, but I think he posted that when you had your mask on. He also says there's nothing in the whole wide world that makes you want to smile like watching Glasgow Celtic putting on the style. Don't know if he was trying to be a poet, and if that was for your benefit, Kev, because as you were saying this morning, your book is just about upon us. You have the very first unbound draft of the book in front of us. Gives a wee shot of that again up at the camera. There it is, 7 years of Henrik. At some point, I think maybe just to close off the show today in the Charity Weekender, Kev, I'm going to get you to read a poem. So in your mind, you can figure out which one you're going to do. I love just throwing you into situations, Kev. It's not the first time I've done that. Just to let you know, the other time it was no big deal over at the Glasgow Royal Concert Hall, and I, without any kind of warrant, told you that you were reciting poetry in front of 1,500 people, which was fine. Now, £19,895. That's astonishing. That's £105 off 20 grand. That's where we are just now. So Kevin and I were very relaxed. We're on the final hour of a 24-hour broadcast. Loads to talk about. We're going to jump in and out of today's game, of course. I'm pretty sure Tony, myself and Amy will chat all about that tomorrow as well on the ACSOM Bulletin.
Right.
Sorry.
Stop the now.
Okay.
What about £105?
Sorry?
Are we £105 away from the 20 grand?
I'll just double check. We were there a minute ago. Yes, we still are.
Right. Martin McGarvey, who has illustrated the book, has says to give his fee to charity. I'll give the £105 to give you up to the 20 grand.
Kevin, you're an absolute gentleman. And Martin McGarvey, whose artwork adorns that book, also done a phenomenal series of paintings that were exhibited at the penalty spot, 2 of which are in our auction as well. Both fantastic, but there is one that I might have to throw a wee bid in myself for, and it's a Danny McGrain in his pomp, Kev, signed by Danny, signed by the artist, original painting on a beautiful canvas. That's a phenomenal gesture. So we have now, and I've written it down, and it's on camera, so it needs to be, there you go, 105. We have just smashed through 20k. Unbelievable. I mean, it's serious, game-changing, life-changing amounts of cash, Kevin. Mm-hmm. Last season, there was the whole pandemic scenario that we were in the midst of. We were going for a quadruple treble. It was a moment in time. but we were given to 4 different charities who eventually all got in and around the £7,000 mark. And we proudly have the 4 frames in the studio because it's something to be really proud of. This time round, although we've not quite met the 27k, we've just hit £20,000 there, Kev, but it's all going to St Mary's, every penny. Every single penny. I mean, there's a small amount that GoFundMe, I think, take off when you do the transfer, but it is a small percentage. Every single penny is going to go to St Mary's. So that's an astonishing gesture from yourself, Kevin. Thank you so much for that, mate. Now, Tommy Roderick, last word on the matter. You were looking at that performance today and asking yourself, is it the best of the season? And a few people out the front of the studio were saying that's the best we've seen Celtic playing since the first half at Easter Road. Well, what's the common denominator there?
It's Big Tam.
Big Tam. And then, of course, he gets injured in that game, and we managed the second half out, don't we, at 3-0. We look as though we're going to be winning 4 or 5 at Easter Road that day. Now, that's Tommy Roderick. The final question I would ask then, I think that Ange Postecoglou, Colin Watt and I had a conversation on a weekend bulletin months ago, and we spoke about the fact that when a manager comes in, historically, they often revitalise certain players. So you can look at Ronnie Dyla doing that. You can look at Brendan Rodgers, almost forgot his name. Brendan Rodgers did that. And I'm not forgetting Neil Lennon. I'm not airbrushing Neil Lennon out of the history books after everything that he's done for the club, Kevin. So they are able to tap in. I mean, you've just got to look at Neil Lennon's impact on James Forrest when he first came into the side. James Forrest played 2 games under Mowbray, didn't he? Mowbray gave him his debut, yeah. But it was under Lennon that he started coming to the fore as a young player, 17, 18 years of age. So, yeah, absolutely. And when you look at the players that we thought, is he going to revitalise this one or that one? The obvious one was Tom Roderick because he had worked with him at international level. I would suggest, and tell me if you think there's any more, that he has revitalised Tom Roderick, Nir Bitton, and when he's playing midfield, and Tony Ralston. But I would also argue that he's revitalised Joe Hart, not as a Celtic player, but as a footballer. I think that's the 4 players. Which of the 4 has made the biggest impact?
Joe Hart.
Of those 4 that I've mentioned?
Of those 4, yes. I think Hart shows what we were missing last season. I think Joe Hart brings... Ralston's been fantastic. Yeah. Beaton's done a job.
Ralston's been a bonus. You never... you've got a player you didn't think you had.
But I think Joe Hart has brought leadership experience into our dressing room, which was in a state of flux. You've got to remember, and it's something that Postecoglou talks about quite often, that you had 12 new players walk into that dressing room, and how many left?
14.
14 left. Joe Hart walked into a problem position, a position where where there is a lack of talent, or a lack of talent with confidence. Anyway, a lack of confidence in the goalkeepers, and he's completely revitalised himself and revitalised that role within Celtic. And even today, he put a couple of great passes today, even though he ended up on his bum with a couple of them. I would say Joe Hart for me has probably been the biggest bonus this season. Did
the sun just get in his eyes at that moment earlier on?
I think so. I mean, it's coming out of the George Fox eye, so it probably would have done. I think Postecoglou has possibly also revitalised Cameron Carter-Vickers as a player, because how many loan spells has he had?
7 or 8.
7 or 8.
Yeah.
Now he's getting a massive run of games. He has shown his ability. And he's shown his ability so much that Tottenham are getting a bit wide.
With the prices.
With the prices. So there's a lot of guys there that Postecoglou can take credit for revitalising. What I really love about it, though, is you can actually see the areas that we can get better, and you actually believe that we can actually bridge that gap and get better. Whether that's with the players that are there or players that he's going to bring in. And that's something that when we were doing this charity weekender last season, we couldn't say.
No. talking about bringing players in, again, that was a discussion out the front earlier on, not only between Tommy and Frank, but our other guest, Stevie Mullen. It was fantastic to see Stevie again in the studio. And Shuggy Farrell, who is a St. Roch's legend. And we were talking about the fact that the three players that a lot of the reports are saying, Kevin, not just, I'm not talking the British media, we're always late to the party. These reports are coming from the Japanese press talking about three players coming to Celtic in January. And it looks as though a couple of things. We're getting our business done early, which we've been critical of in the past. And the players that are coming in are undoubtedly Angie's players.
Definitely. It was good after the game today. I know that you probably haven't seen Postecoglou's interviews after the game today, but he was quite, not curt, but he was quite tongue-in-cheek with the links to the J-League. And he says that it looks like I've been linked with half the J-League. He says, you do know there's also a Korean league that you can link me with players from. So I don't really know. He kept his cards close to his chest, but it does look like that Rio Hatate is done. It does also look like, if you believe the Japanese press, that Maeda is going to come on loan initially with an option to buy in the summer. I'm not 100% sure who the third one is. I think he was a midfielder who was at Leeds, if I remember correctly. So it looks like they are going to be Postecoglou players. Is it a bit worry that they're coming from the same league and there's going to be I bet there's going to be a bedding in period. We Kyogo's here right enough, so it might be easier for them, but they're coming from a completely different culture, completely different style of league, style of football to Scotland in January. So it'll be interesting to see if those free moves do come off, but it looks like two of them are definitely done. So I still believe that me and Colin had a debate on Wednesday, but I still believe that Atate's coming in as a midfielder. I do believe he's coming in as a midfielder, and Maeda is going to give us that sort of pacey option wide as well. Maybe through the middle, get another Kyogo. Giakoumakis just seems to be constantly injured now. Aiete doesn't seem to be featuring much.
It's never going to happen, mate.
It's not. I mean, people were talking about left backs. I think today maybe proved that we've got options at left back. Maybe not long-term options, but we've got options at left back. And if Ange has only got a limited budget in January, I think midfield and forwards are the areas that we're going to see. If he's going to bring in three players, I can't see much more coming in, bar those three.
Yeah, and we spoke about that as well earlier on, because Colin was audacious enough to say that we're going to need six. People kind of scoffed at that. I think Colin was right. I think the scoffing was nobody expects us to do that, especially if we offload a few. Because I've already said, for me, I would get rid of four. I'd get rid of Bolingoli, Soro, Aiete and Barkas. Four guys who are part of the first team squad, albeit Bolingoli's not part of the European squad or Europa League squad. But they're the four players that, they're just not contributing, Kev, so move them on.
No, they're not. And when you look at that bench today, the bench was, first time it says, there's not a lot of options on that bench. There's five options, but there's more questions about their options and answers. And even when we bring in players, new players, everybody thinks are brand new, shiny, and they're going to be better than the ones that they replace. But if we bring in those three players from the J-League, there's still massive questions over them because we don't know how they're going to fare.
No.
And so you look at today, everybody wondered what Scales would do. Now you've got in the back of your mind, he may do a job.
Yep.
Abada came on. I thought Abada done okay today. But you can actually see there's potential in him as well. He's 20-year-old. He showed well at the start of the season. That's the problem at the moment. We've got a lot of questions in the squad and not many answers. And sometimes people mix that up with having a lack of depth. Yeah,
they do. And I think also, we've spoken long and hard about the Betis game and how we need to give a lot of the fringe players game time, and we need to get them tested and we need to give them a run out and every other cliche in the book. But just a reminder to everybody who's tuning in, we have smashed through the £20,000 mark. It's an absolute game-changing amount for St Mary's. I'll be contacting, probably not tonight because it'll be too late, but I'll be contacting them in the morning to give them an update. And we did have a message coming through. Let's see if I can find it, from Stephen. Welcome to the show, Stephen. You're on YouTube. Anybody on YouTube, get yourself subscribed on there. Click the notifications bell. I was telling Kevin about some of the big plans for Celtic State of Mind and a State of Mind over the next 12 months. And basically, you don't want to miss it. There's going to be an incredible amount of content free on the channel. So get yourself subscribed on there, and you will get exclusive content from a Celtic State of Mind. Now, Paul Joseph Cregan, and I need to bring it up, Paul, because my eyesight is so bad that I can't read it until it's on the screen. A little off topic, but do you have a date of release for the ACSOM tracksuit tops that are displayed behind you, PJ? Well, they came in on Friday, Paul, and otherwise they would have been on the website, but because of the weekend, it'll be tomorrow before we get up on the website. We're going to be selling these for 40 quid. We've got the white ones and the green ones as well. And we've had a lot of interest in them. So if anybody does buy them, we'll make sure that they're out immediately for Christmas. You know, it would always be nice just to get the old Christmas present, the last minute ones. John Boy 67, Graham, well done, ACSOM. Thank you very much for that, but well done, everybody. Well done, every single Celtic podcast who has got involved. And a few times, it was Tony Haggerty that was saying a couple of times over the weekender, you talk about pod wars. That's not what it's about, Kev.
No, definitely
podcast wars, really. We had, over this weekend, 15 different podcasts coming together. So let's run through, in no particular order, everybody who was involved over the weekender. Thank you to Tony Cunnan, who gave us the time. Did you get a chance to watch the interview, Kev?
I did. He was brilliant.
He's a top man.
He is a top man, the friend of Declan McConville. Yeah,
friend of Deck. Celtic Down Under, love that show. I'll tell you what I love about it is they're ahead of the curve when it comes to the what's happening in Japan. So they know a hell of a lot more than our mainstream media in terms of the players.
Definitely, and these guys must be loving the fact that we've got Ange Postecoglou as a manager. Mm-hmm. And there's a big interest in the J League now, and we've actually seen a big interest on ACSOM, the amount of contributors that we get now from Australia.
Yeah.
So I'm sure they're all in bed at this precise moment in time. I noticed Kookaburra, who comments quite a lot, he was saying it was 11 o'clock when he was watching the game earlier on today. So, aye, good luck to the lads.
Absolutely. We also had the Patriot game. Not only a phenomenal tune, but also a very, very good podcast, and they were on as well. 67 Hail Hail, really enjoyed that. John and Hamish joined us. Celtic Supporters Podcast, Dell will be coming back on because there was a couple of rescheduling issues, you know, mainly Tommy and Frank going on a wee bit later and then running on a wee bit later and all that kind of stuff. But that's fine because, you know, we're a wee bit more relaxed, Kevin. It didn't actually affect the fundraising endeavours. So Celtic Shared came on. I thought Brian Degnan done a brilliant job of hosting ACSOM for the first time. But the question remains about Bernard Higgins. I mean, it's great to have, you know, discussions about how great we are on the park, but, you know, these questions still remain. We've been talking about St Mary's and how the club have to do more. And I don't mind saying it. But, you know, I still in the back of my mind, I'm expecting an announcement from the club, not to say that this is a position we're looking to fill and this individual is not going to get the job. I think it will be the opposite.
I really don't know. I can't read what the board are going to do with us. I have said that they'll have a silence, and before you know it, either Higgins will be appointed or somebody else will be appointed very, very quietly. I thought the guys from Celtic Shared spelled out what they were doing perfectly and gave everybody a great insight of how supporters organisations work, how the North Curve works, how the Green Brigade works. Yes, I'm a bit loath to talk about Bernard Higgins on a night where we've done so much good.
Yeah,
I'm a bit loath to give him any airtime whatsoever. I noticed the banners were behind the goals again today, and the banners will keep on being there until the club do the right thing.
That's fine. You know what? I can buy that, absolutely. Thanks, everybody. Gary, Byron, guys, it's been brilliant. It's been brilliant from this end as well. You've got to remember, I mean, last year, Kev, it was a different vibe because, you know, we went into it not really knowing. We knew the technology, we just didn't really know how it was going to run. This time's been a wee bit different. I felt very organised this time round, whereby, you know, we also have worked with just about all of these podcasts before. We know what to expect, and it's been a very good atmosphere in the studio as well. And thanks for everybody for getting involved. Stephen also comes in, Stephen Coulthard, to say, well done to the Celtic women. Yes, we were represented at the game. Despite the fact that we were doing the charity weekend, Natasha Meikle went to the game to report it for a Celtic State of Mind, and she was able to secure quite a few interviews after it, which we'll be putting up on the YouTube channel tomorrow, Kev. So congratulations for the women's team winning the 2021 SWPL Cup. Fantastic.
Well done. Well done to Fran.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's a fan's favourite, isn't he?
He's another one that's bought in, eh?
He has. And, you know, he's such a likeable guy. He's charismatic, but he's obviously very good at what he does as well. We'll run through all the other contributors. Celtic the Thunder, thought they were brilliant, mate.
Yes. I know Ryan McGinley. I know Ryan McGinley's uncle.
Right.
And I've met Ryan McGinley quite a few times at one of the contributors to that podcast. So it was interesting to see them actually doing the podcast. It
was great. It was great.
It was good.
And I think they enjoyed the cake. Scott, Tommy and Frank was brilliant. Yeah, they were absolutely superb, the pair of them. Endless Celts, they opened up.
Yes.
Weekend. They've become friends of the pod over the last year, so they were brilliant. And we also introduced our fans to some of the other content we make on the channel. Every single Saturday night, we put out an unplugged session. The unplugged session, Kevin, we mainly have emerging acts, but we also ask on established acts, so that every so often the channel, or the show rather, gets a wee boost in terms of the audience, and then maybe the audience will subscribe and then look at some of the other sessions, because some of the sessions are tremendous. You look at some of the bands and what they've done. I think we've got quite a few of them just at the right time. Brooke Combe, for example.
Brooke Combe's going to be massive.
Got her at the right time. And a Celtic fan she is too. The Raz, thought the Raz were brilliant.
Yes, they were. They were really good as well.
They're Hibs fans. I don't know why I'm telling you who everybody supports, but I do ask them when they come in. I thought the Usual Affairs were very good. Very good. They've done a very good version of That's Entertainment by The Jam as well. And, you know, I've enjoyed most of them, but, you know, Rhiannon Downey, she was great.
She's getting a lot of airplay on Six Music now.
She's done a collaboration with Kyle Faulkner.
Has she?
Yes. Yeah, a Christmas single.
Is that Caledonia? Is it? I
know she does a version of that as well.
I saw her tweeting the other day that Caledonia was going to be out soon, so I'm not 100% sure. But another emerging talent on the Scottish music scene.
Yes, and
the British music scene.
And she's also got good taste in football teams as well. And who else? So, yeah, Jennifer Ewan. So Jennifer Ewan, the story around that one, Kev, was that I'm just name dropping at the moment, but we interviewed James Allen. And I asked him to recommend me somebody up and coming, emerging, and he recommended me the Jennifer Ewan Band, who he had heard on the radio. So, as we do, we sought her out. We asked Jennifer on. She came on, along with Kim, who is Jennifer's accordion and flute player. So, have a wee look at that 47-minute session. We went down to Manchester the other week as well, Kevin.
Yes, we did.
Gaz Whelan, Happy Mondays.
Yes.
We have Jamie Pollock. We've got Dancing on Tables, Mesmerine, Kutchie Cash, The Catoons, Vistas, Sasha Kalahiris, PG Chiarletta, another Celtic fan, Maya Herlihy, Brian Catigan, Dictator, Primes, Scott McGill, Rab, she was brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
She was excellent, Robin. Ace City Racers, Bertha Kennedy, Megan Black, Fraser McLean, Mark Sharp and the Bicycle Thieves, Joshua Grant, and of course, Edgar Summertime Jones. So, yeah, go and have a wee look at that. We put out a new band every single Saturday night, Kev, and we're going to keep doing that all the way through 2022 as well.
Definitely, all these artists need pushed. The music business has been on its knees in the last 18 months because of the pandemic. Now gigs are getting back. These artists make their money from gigging and that. So if we can give them a wee push up the ladder, then fantastic. It's great seeing them in here. And every one of them seems to enjoy it. And they all give us something different.
I know.
Every one of them something different, and hopefully some of them have really, really good careers. Brooke Combs, a stick-on
Just a star.
to have a star career.
She's incredible. I can see Brooke Combe on the Jules Holland show with Paul Weller.
Yes.
I could see it happening. Dictator gave us a band T-shirt as well. Thank you very much. If any of the other ones want to give us a band T-shirt, we will be only too happy to accept. The Unrestricted View were the headlining act for the Saturday night. They closed the Saturday night stage, Kev. And again, it was great to introduce ourselves to them. Soccer Supernova made an appearance with Jerry McCabe. Wee Jerry, who has been in football since 1975. This year was the first time he hasn't had a pre-season. Also a Celtic fan. And because it's a Celtic State of Mind, Kev, come on. Also, by the way, we accept any guests for Soccer Supernova and the Unplugged show. It doesn't matter what football team you support. Yeah. We then covered the game, the Dundee United game, which we've spoken about. We then had Tommy and Frank on, followed by the Huddle Breakdown. Alan Morrison, he has changed your view of football, Kev.
He has, definitely. I mean, when we started on, when we were just an audio podcast, which seems very, very long time ago, I used to interview him, and he used to change my perception of games all the time. And I do actually message Alan every now and again. And the last time I done it was after Leverkusen away, and I went, did James McCarthy actually play in front of Callum McGregor when he came on? And Alan gave me a big message saying, no, they were both sitting deep, blah, 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 and they were both in strange positions. And I went, that makes me understand the game far, far better. Because I just watch it and go, that was a great goal by Tommy Rogic.
You're an observer.
I just observe it.
And Alan's an analyst.
There's a great quote by a Brazilian playwright called Nicholas Rodriguez. And he says, the biggest blindness in football is just watching the ball. So...
Okay, that's fair enough. I get that. Tino of the Celtic Exchange and the boys came into the studio, and it was great to have them in the studio. E-Tims, or Electronic Tims to give them their Sunday name, they were brilliant. Thank you very much for doing us for the second time in a row. And Glasgow is Green, again, second time in a row they came in to make it 2 in a row, and then 4 Tims in a pod. They also came in.
The Christmas jumper.
Nate, I was disappointed at the lack of a Christmas jersey, mate. It was one of the high points of last year. And then, of course, it was us. It was us after that.
It was a massive discussion point last year, Paul.
Yes, it was. And what I want you to do, Kev, have you decided which poem you're going to recite?
Aye. I need to get my glasses on because I wouldn't be able to read it.
Wait a minute, I'm going to play one of the videos then, right? Because we're running out of time, but I'm going to play one of them. And the reason I'm going to play this particular video is because the person who sent this video also sent us an item last year, but he sent us 2, and we're using the second one this year. How bad's my eyesight? I can barely see what I'm doing here. So I'm going to play that, and it will show you one of the items that we're going to auction off this week as well, just while you decide on the poem that you're going to use there. Here we go. I'm going to play this video first, mate.
Hello, this is just a quick message from Johnny Owen. I'm the filmmaker that did The Three Kings, and I just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Good luck to the Celtic State of Mind quadruple trebled fundraiser, and I'm offering one of these, which is going to be a signed poster of the film, and that's been held up by none other than Vicky McClure.
Hiya.
So, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
How cool was that Vicky McClure made a wee cameo as well? Yeah, we're going to be auctioning off that poster and loads of other things. We had it framed though, so
yes.
It's a cracking item, and hopefully we'll raise a few more £1,000. Just before your poem is recited, Kev, a wee update is obviously we have burst through the 20 grand mark. It's an incredible achievement for everybody. Thank you so much for supporting us. Kev, give us your poem. Do your best. Do your worst.
Okay. 21st of November 1998, Celtic 5, Rangers 1, Scottish Premier League, Celtic Park. The sweetest thing. Your sunshine is the sweetest thing. This was the sweetest thing. The starting gun step over was the sweetest thing. The gates of paradise opened, They couldn't hold us any longer. The arrogance of wealth, the flash boys, throwing money around like confetti, hiding frailty within smoke and mirrors and a narcissistic smile. We counted pennies, jealous of showmanship, not realising that copper would be worth more than gold, that blank cheques bounce higher than cash. And we were a green-eyed monster, falling in love with a brown-eyed boy, and it would be the sweetest thing. As long as the compass points north, he will know where the ball will be. A would-be Braveheart grabbing at the air, trying to swat flies, attempting a shove to affect your balance, to befoul your assurance is ignored with ease. And you post a love letter with the sweetest of smells, delivering us not a blind kind of love, but the love like a newborn's eyes, swimming with the limitless possibilities of life. It's the sweetest thing.
Beautiful. That is from Kevin's forthcoming collection of poems. What's it called, Kev?
7 Years of Henrik.
7 Years of Henrik. That will be available on ACSOM.net. We will be promoting that book. We'll be taking Kevin on the roads for a series of gigs in 2022 as well. And also on ACSOM.net next week, you'll be able to buy that tracksuit that Kevin is wearing, as well as the white alternative version that is just over my shoulder. Kevin, that was an incredible weekend. £20,000 plus raised for St Mary's, the birthplace of Celtic. You make a massive difference. Every single one of you that tune in, you make a huge difference to what we do, what the club does. You form opinions based on your comments that come in. I mean, I give credit to the commenters in terms of Ralph Rangnick, Kev. We were doing it straight for Paddock. They didn't know who Ralph Rangnick was 3 weeks ago. Am I right?
Yes.
That's a Man United channel that's got 700,000 subscribers. But Celtic fans were telling us about Ralph Rangnick best part of a year ago. So that shows you the quality that's in the comment section. And as long as you keep tuning in, we will always be broadcasting a Celtic State of Mind. Thank you to every single one of yous. What I can say is a member, last thing to consider, a member of the Celtic family from the East Coast, Kev, a businessman, threw 10 grand in the pot. 10 grand in the pot yesterday. And I'm just wondering if anybody through Glasgow wants to match that. There's a lot of big, deep pockets over there. It'd be nice if one of the businessmen matched that incredible donation that we got yesterday and pushes us even further above the 10 grand target that we had. We've doubled that. We're going to do the auction tomorrow. Kev, it's been fantastic, and I can't thank you enough, and everybody who's been involved in a Celtic State of Mind.
Thank you.